Hello, good morning or good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well today. Welcome to our webinar today, Navigating Life After Graduation. I am so happy you all are here. We're going to give it a few minutes to let people trickle in. As you pop into the webinar, if you could just say hi in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, that would be awesome. I am tuning in from Portland, Oregon, where we're having a very kind of overcast, dreary summer day. Doesn't really feel like summer. Hi, Candace. Thank you for being here. Hot and sunny and 98. Oh my goodness. I just got back from Wisconsin and Chicago this weekend, and it was 95 and so humid. I was not used to the humidity. Hi, Tammy. Tuning in from Texas, Montana. Robert, I see you have your hand up. If you want to use the chat, let me know what your questions are. That would be awesome. We're going to give it just one more minute here and then I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, Kelly. Good to see you here. Hi, Andrea. Yeah, it looks like everyone's got much higher temperatures than what I'm experiencing right now. Hi, Felicia. Good to see you. It's been a while. Okay. As people trickle in, continue to put where you're tuning in from in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So just some housekeeping. You'll notice that you're on mute, and that's just because we do email this recording out to those that can't be here today live. And also all of you that are here today live will also receive a recording if you wanted to go back and reflect on that later. This presentation should be about 30 to 45 minutes. I definitely don't love just like talking. I really want to hear from you and get your feedback and answer your questions. And so even though we can't come off mute, I'd love for you to just be engaging as much as possible in the chat. I want this to be a time where you can ask questions as well. So ask me anything, and if I don't have an immediate answer, I'll definitely find it for you. So yeah, like I said, this will be recorded and emailed out later today. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Cloud. Okay. All right. So my name is Felicia Royce. I am the Director of Alumni and Career Services here with ACHS, and I'm being joined today by Gina Schneps, our Marketing Manager. Gina is in the background, just making sure everything is running smoothly. And if there are any IT issues, Gina will be able to help. So just, put any of your issues in the chat. She might also be helping me if I miss like a question in the chat. So you might hear from her as well. And yes, Robert, you will get a recording of this presentation. Okay, so just kind of diving in here. I figured it was a really appropriate time to have a webinar on navigating life after graduation because we just had our graduation on the 13th, and it's my favorite day of the year. Never a dry eye for me. It's a very emotional day. And it makes me reflect on all of the hard work that our students put into their education and all of the exciting energy that comes from that. So I'm curious with everyone here if you all just recently graduated, if you want to share like when you graduated or where you're at in your educational journey, I'd love to hear. Just so I know kind of what the audience looks like today in terms of their pathway. Um, so as most of you know, if you have graduated or are close to graduating, there's a whole lot of emotions that come with that, right? Excitement, those feelings of achievement, but also uncertainty and fear, right? Of like, okay, I did the thing, now what's next, right? Amy is working on her dissertation. That's really exciting. Barbara just started classes, so this is awesome. You can kind of um, think ahead a little bit of how you might be feeling in the next year or two. But I think it's really important as you go through these transitions, even starting school, right? To really practice self-compassion and really allow that space and that time to reflect on your journey, on your growth, what brought you to where you are today. I think sometimes we get so orientated on, what is my immediate goal, right? And we might be motivated because we have financial obligations or, we have specific things that we need to be doing to meet our needs. But I think sometimes, because we're go, go, go while we're in school, it's easy to lose track of how hard we've worked and where we've come. And so I think taking a beat, especially right after you graduate, it's really important to look in the rear view a little bit and give yourself a pat on the back. I'm gonna look in the chat here. Hi, Carrie Ann. Oh, so good to see you at graduation. I'm gonna see if there's anyone else here that had anything they wanted to share. So I think, in my role in career coaching, I often hear the question like, what can I and what do I do with my degree or my diploma, right? And so I think sometimes we can get pretty caught up on specific titles. But what I would encourage is to think about more of skill, right? Or more of an environment, or more of just a feeling that you have around your passion versus just being attached to a specific title. And I can use myself as an example here. When I was in my undergrad, I studied human services and I have my master's in psychology. And I thought for most of my life that I was going to be a social worker. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I was setting out to do. I did my internships, I got all my hours done. And the school that I was the school I was attending for my undergrad and graduate programs had a finance advisor position open. And I needed a new position. So I applied. And thus I started working in higher education and I fell in love with it. And that was in 2008. And I met so many amazing people along my journey and took on so many different titles. And now I'm here today working with all of you as the Director of Alumni and Career Services. And if you would have asked me 15 years ago, where do you see yourself? It would not be in the position I am now. So I just think it's really important to remember that our path can be very nonlinear. Um, and I also hear like, how could I get a job in this field? I don't have any experience, right? I've gone to school, I have all the education, but I've never done this before, right? I'm a career changer. And I think it's really important to just recognize that you have unique contributions and unique ideas, and we need your specific uniqueness in the field. And I think also remembering that you are more prepared than you think you are, right? I think confidence can be really tricky when you're new at something, but everyone has to start somewhere. And I think starting where you're at and remembering that you can learn a lot of things on the job. If you have a foundation and you have the passion, you can always get your foot in the door, start somewhere, and then see where that path unfolds. You're not married to anything, right? When it comes to your career, you can always make pivots. So I think it's important just to remember that. And as a recovering perfectionist myself, I just want to remind everybody that perfection just doesn't exist. And so if you're feeling like things need to be perfect before you can take your first step, I would just gently remind you to try to let that go and meet yourself where you're at and just remember that this is a journey and it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm curious if anyone's willing to share just how you're feeling about your own transition, any feelings that have come up for you, and maybe how you're navigating that or not navigating that. Um, Cloud said, just graduated with my BS in integrative health sciences and trying to remember what the outside world looks like. I think that's a really wise thing to say, right? You keep your head in the books and you're focused for so many years that sometimes we forget, what it's like to be in the professional world. All right. Feel free if you want to type anything in the chat. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Candace said, I just graduated. I'm an RN trying to figure out my next future pathway. I'm unsure how to complete hours and search for employment by integrating past work experience with new education experience. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's definitely something that I can help you with is really learning how to find some of those opportunities. And I'm not sure if you Awatika, I think I'm saying your name correctly. Awatika. If you want to elaborate a little bit on the hours you're trying to complete, I might be able to answer that question for you or at least get you in the right direction. Um, Thank you, Carrie Ann. Not certain of the future. I'm beginning to feel more confident appearing in person for graduation. Yeah. Yes. Carrie Ann, if you could share, any thoughts on like how you've been able to build your confidence, I'd love to hear about that. Robert's facing some difficulties securing a job. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that a little bit. The NAMP BCHN hours. Yeah, so for the NAMP hours, there's 500 hours, 250 contact and 250 non-contact hours. And that can either be in self-practice. So if you have your own business and you're seeing clients, you can obtain those hours that way. Or you can obtain those hours working in the industry, let's say as like a health coach or something like that, or a nutrition coach. So we can definitely connect offline as well about how to secure those hours, but there's a couple of ways you can do it. Okay. Barbara said I was burnt out as a clinical lab tech and decided to go into a different field. Well, I have to say that's really empowering and really brave. I know how hard it can be when you've done something for a long time to make a decision to leave and try something else. So kudos to you on that. All right. So I think it's also really important just to clarify your vision and your values and really identify what's important to you. So reconnecting with the why, right? Like what brought you to ACHS? What, passion inspired you to take on such a feat as getting a degree, and spending all of that time and sacrifice, right, in school. And it could be, that you went through something personal that really impacted you. And I think that's part of your story and something that you can share and that makes you unique. And then really reflecting on your values. So what is it that you really want out of a position, right? Do you want to travel? Do you need work-life balance? Do you really want to do something meaningful in the world? Do you want autonomy or do you need structure, right? So really getting clear on what do I need? And what are my values and what are my non-negotiables as well? I think it's really important to have some sort of practice around this. So journaling, um, I always say keep a feel-good folder. So anytime that you've received praise on something that you've done, or maybe you get a testimonial from a client, keep that somewhere. And when you're feeling like, oh, my confidence is a little low, look at those things and remind yourself of how awesome you are. And just reflecting on your confidence and how you're building that, creating a vision board if you're a visual person. I think it's really helpful to work with a mentor or a coach, somebody who's neutral that can give you advice and who can also keep you accountable and kind of see an outside perspective. We do have a mentorship program here, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But you can, definitely tap into, there's many coaches out there that really focus on many different areas of career development. Um, I know it's an old saying, but I love the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. So remembering again that you are a unique person, that you're bringing your own flavor of integrative health, into the industry, right? And so I think when you're looking at somebody else's website or looking at somebody else's testimonials, it's easy to think, oh, I wish I were, you know, better at XYZ thing. But just remembering that comparison, it doesn't really get us anywhere, right? Except for feeling kind of crummy. And I think that there's another way to look at what other people are doing, and that's by seeing what's worked really well for them. And maybe looking at their LinkedIn and figuring out how their pathway looked and what type of resources they used, right? So using that as fuel for, um, being creative with your own process versus comparing. Everyone starts somewhere, whether you have a doctor's jacket on and you're a new doctor, or you're a new herbalist and you see other herbalists that have been doing this for 20 years. Everyone started with that moment of I'm out of school and now I'm new at this, and I'm a beginner, right? So staying curious and reframing, um, our brain is always listening, right? So when we do have obstacles, I think reframing, I'm not good at this, to I'm learning and improving. And just, trying to kind of reframe how we talk to ourselves. And I don't mean like, be positive all the time, but try to think of that kind of growth flexible mindset as a tool. And then really affirming, like I was saying before, your effort and your progress, and not just staying focused on the outcome. So as Carrie Ann said, steps that helped her build confidence were resilience, inner strength, importance of what I have, and not what I don't have, not comparing, reading a diverse collection of subjects. Yeah, those are really great confidence builders. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Cloud says, this is where I often feel like a combo of Eeyore and Thomas the Tank Engine. That is so awesome. Yes, yes, that's a great visual. Absolutely. So in terms of creating a strategic job plan, I mean, this is really where the resources come into play, really tuning into what resources you have. And I want to apply the lens of the resources you have here at ACHS. If you were to sit down and do a career coaching appointment with me, we're going to really look at what you're most interested in. Also, what your experience is previously and where your transferable skills lie. When you're looking at a job description, what I want you to really tune into is when they list those bullet points of what they're looking for in a candidate. I want you to pull out 3 or 4 or 5 things that you feel really confident in. And they can be soft skills or they can be hard skills. And I want you to bring those into your resume and bring those into your career summary and your cover letter. And I want to drive home that you do not have to meet every single qualification to apply for a job. You have a lot of transferable skills, and you can focus more on those soft skills like communication and things that you've done in the past that maybe weren't integrative health related, but can be transferable in nature. Conflict resolution, things like that, customer service. Obviously, if a job is asking you for something specific, like a specific degree or certification, that's different, right? You would have to have that to apply. But a lot of times I think jobs go unapplied for because people feel like, oh, I don't meet all of the criteria. And I think it's important to remember that you don't have to. And then reflecting on less about the job title again and more about the environment. Do you want to be outside? Do you want to be in an office? Do you want to be in your home? Do you want to be at a coffee shop? Where do you see yourself in your environment? It's so interesting because I mean, there's so many career pathways. We're going to look at some of those together here in a minute. But I was just on vacation in Wisconsin, and I went to this botanical garden they're called the Domes, and they were so amazing. They were like works of art with these plants. And the first thing that came into my head was, this is somebody's job to do this, right? Like somebody gets to come in here and arrange these beautiful pieces of artwork with these botanical gardens and these flowers and these plants. And so I think, again, that flexibility of mindset of like, where do you see yourself working? and then kind of following those breadcrumbs. And then it's important to really figure out what you don't want, right? The worst thing is to get into a position that you really don't like and isn't a good fit for you. And then you end up having to leave early and, that's not good for the employer or for you. So, Andrea said, I thought of my English skills as horrible and was nervous about writing papers in the first semester. And now I love writing and wish to incorporate research and writing into my career. That is amazing. And we really need research and writing in this field. So I hope you continue on that path. Thank you for sharing. So ACHS does offer quite a few resources, including a job board. I think all of you can see my screen right now, but here are all of the different job boards that you can go to, not only for um, external positions, but also potential internship opportunities. You can fill out profiles for some of these and get matched up to different internship opportunities, which are really important for networking and gaining those hands-on skills. So this is definitely something that I'll put in the chat here if you want to utilize some of these resources. And then how many of you are currently using LinkedIn? I'm curious at everyone's, LinkedIn usage, and they're perfect. Perfect. So you have profiles. Are all of you using that to network? Awesome. I definitely do one-on-one LinkedIn profile support. So if that's ever anything that you're interested in, let me know. We could always set up a time. But really utilizing those things like LinkedIn, some students and alumni are in really rural areas where they can't just like go down the street corner and find an apothecary or a herbal medicine practitioner. They have to use these tools like LinkedIn. So it's really important to build your professional brand on there and really take your time to really make a really well-crafted, well-written LinkedIn profile that really, if somebody looks at it for 30 seconds, gets an idea of what your skills are, what you're passionate about. And then I had mentioned this before, but we have a mentorship program here for budding practitioners. So I'll put this also in the chat. But we have a mentorship program that you apply for usually at the end of your program, or if you're an alumni, and you would be matched up with an ACHS graduate who typically owns their own business or is in the field in some capacity. And it really helps to develop some of those skills. It's a fantastic program. It's been going on maybe the last year and a half, and it's just expanded every year. So I'll put that in here as well. And there's a way to ask for a follow-up on that. So feel free to reach out if you're interested. And obviously, I'm a resource, so I can help with anything from resume review to job search support, very personalized. As we saw earlier, we're all tuning in from different places. So the limitations on like having an actual job board that everyone can tune into is that all of our students are from all over, right? So sometimes we have to do a one-on-one and look at your specific area and what's available where you live. And I'm always happy to do that. And Gina can put in the chat a link to my online calendar. But one of the things I think is really important while you're in school and when you graduate is to make sure that you are joining those third-party organizations. So if you are an aromatherapy professional, NAHA, AIA, ARC, taking that registered aromatherapist exam, highly recommend focusing on getting those credentials if you can. It definitely sets you apart. The American Herbalist Guild, you can be a student or a professional member with them. We talked a little bit about NANP, but that is another credential to get board certified. For those that have been in our graduate certificate in wellness coaching, It has been approved for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching, which is huge. That definitely opens up a lot more opportunity in terms of employment. So making sure that you're aware of what these credentials are. If you're in the Masters of Holistic Nutrition, that is a CNS, a Certified Nutritional Specialist pathway. So really making sure early on that you know what those credentials are, how they can help you and benefit you, and what that process looks like to get credentialed. They're usually, quite involved. So I can definitely help you with that as well. Kelly, I would love to speak with you, so definitely schedule a time on my calendar. Um, okay. Any questions? I'm going to stop here about career planning, job search support, um, credentialing, anything before I move on to the next slide. Oh, I also wanted to show, before I move on, show the sites again. Yes. And I put those in the chat too, Cloud. So this is the job board site. So this has all of the different kind of job boards that we recommend using, and then also a way to find government jobs and internships and mentorship as well. Also volunteerism. If there's any way for any of you to volunteer, I highly recommend. That is definitely a resume booster and gets you that hands-on experience as well. And then I think the other site we were talking about was the mentor site. This is the mentorship program here. And that was also, the link was put in the chat. So we put the link to the pathway resource in there, and all of you can look at this with me. This is a really fun PDF that really details every single career pathway in the holistic health field. So as you are doing your job search, if you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for positions, or you're Googling and looking for positions that are out there on different job boards, I would recommend using this tool to use specific keywords. So as I look for positions, what I find to be the most helpful is Googling health coach jobs remote, right? It comes up with all of the different job boards from all the different positions from all the different job boards. So you can kind of peruse through here and just see what you find. I find that Google can be a little more all-encompassing than just using one. I actually prefer LinkedIn over all of the other job boards personally, but it doesn't list every single position that's out there. So this is a way, and then I would highly recommend cross-referencing these positions that you find with LinkedIn. I'll kind of show you here. It might make more sense as a visual. Because there's a lot of fraud out there, employment fraud, you really want to make sure you're not giving your personal information to the wrong people. So cross-referencing is a great way to make sure this is a legitimate position. So Vita Health is hiring for a health coach. So what I could do is I could go to LinkedIn and I can go to Vita Health. Oops. And I can go to their actual LinkedIn page. You can see if you have any connections through your LinkedIn that work there. That is awesome if you do, because I would highly recommend reaching out and making that connection. You can see their job board here. And there it is. So you can tell that it's a legitimate position. You can also see all of the other people who work there as well. So if you apply for this position, you could find the recruiter or somebody who's in a management role and connect with them and send them a personal message. So that's how I kind of cross-reference using Google. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Yes, Robert, I believe that PDF was sent here. I'll send it again just in case. There you go. But yeah, this is a really robust list of all of the different pathways that are out there. Now, keep in mind, some of these pathways would Sorry about that. Some of these pathways would actually require some additional education or credentialing. So some of them wouldn't necessarily be, an option for everybody, but it gives you a really wide swath of different um, pathways that you can look at going down. So hopefully that's helpful for all of you. Okay, moving on here. So resume and resume tips. Um, I think I lost my chat here. There it is. Okay. All right. So I would say if you're a career changer and you're somebody who is going to be going into the integrative health field and they have not had work experience in the past, I would highly recommend a functional resume. And I have a functional resume here. If you all can see my screen. So this is a functional resume, and this resume really highlights skills at the beginning. So you're really highlighting all of those transferable skills that you're pulling out of that job description. And then, of course, it goes into your work experience and it goes into your education and things of that nature, just like a normal resume. But a functional resume really is focusing on skills. So again, we can do a one-on-one meeting if you want like specific one-on-one support with that, but this is what a functional resume would look like. Oop. Okay. So I would definitely recommend using a clean and professional layout. Um, Also, just like with a lot of your papers that you wrote while you were in school, it's always a good idea to get a second set of eyes, whether that's through, Grammarly or that's through AI, or if it's through a human, right? You can send it to me if you want me to look over it, but sometimes um, we don't see like small changes that need to be made, like punctuation and things of that nature. Really highlighting your educational experience. So you have been a student, you have graduated, and think of all of the experience you've had with that, all of the, you know, times that you had to use these skills, right? In writing papers and doing research. And it's okay to highlight those experiences, right? Even though it's experience that you got while you're in school, um, the amount of times that you have to actually practice those skills really kind of makes you an expert sometimes. And I think we sometimes forget that. Any volunteerism, make sure you're really highlighting that. It's really crucial to tailor each of your resumes. So keep a base resume, and then every time you apply for something new, you want to really hone in on that top section of the career summary and the skills, and making sure that you have those keywords. And that's because a lot of employers use application tracking systems. So it's a computer reading over and scanning for keywords before a human actually sees your documents. So it's really important that you bring those in. You can use things like ChatGPT, and that can be really helpful, copy and pasting the job description in your resume and then asking it to highlight those keywords can be really efficient. Um, and just, when in doubt, use a lot of action verbs, right? And really quantify those achievements. So if you worked on a project that you're really proud of, employers like to see how you grow over time. And just as a reminder, every time we apply for something, make sure you're saving it as a PDF so it does not share over wonky to the employer. Sometimes if you save it as a Google document or even a Word document, it can share over in a funky format. Any questions on resume? And I'm happy to send out that if anyone's interested in the example resume that I showed, I can send that out as well. I'm curious with everyone that we have here, who is interested in owning their own business? or being an entrepreneur, or maybe there is somebody here that is already a business owner. Is there a time limit after graduation to get support? No. Career services is available to you at any point, even if you've graduated 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We're always here for you. There's no time limit on that. Sounds like Barbara already has a business. That's amazing. Todd said maybe eventually. Keishandia said me. That's awesome. Yeah, so a lot of our students here really want to pursue entrepreneurship for so many reasons, right? They get to have more autonomy over their schedule. They get to really focus and hone in on their specific niche. Um, I think formulating a niche and kind of having an idea of your target audience can be really helpful, but I think also it can be limiting if you hone in too much, right? So there's a balance with that. But having a business plan and really having this on paper not only is going to help you stay organized, but it's also going to help you if you apply for any grant funding. You have to have a business plan to get any funding, business loans, anything like that. So I wanted to share something with you. And Alicia, you raised your hand. Yes, Brianne, I will be sending the functional resume out. I can send you an email with that functional resume that I had shared with you all. Um, and Alicia, feel free to put your question in the chat if you have one. But I wanted to show you all a great resource if you are looking to build your own business. And this is also going to be sent to you as a link here. But let me show you. It will let me out of here. This is our holistic business plan blueprint. And this is a very, very big document. It can feel a little overwhelming, but it is super thorough. And if you don't have this already, I highly encourage you to use it. This is going to go over everything from your mission statement to your goals, to your market research, your description. If you have a legal structure, whether you're using an LLC or sole proprietorship, this is going to really start that foundational piece. And it's really important. This document also really helps you to identify where you need more support. So if you get to this branding and positioning and you're like, I have no idea how to brand a business, right? I'm not a marketing specialist. It's going to clue you into looking into getting support. So getting a business coach or tapping into ACHS's resources. This can be just a great document to help you kind of figure out where you still have some holes in your plan. So I'm going to put this in the chat. Oh, Gina already did it. Thanks, Gina. Amy, so Gina had put in the chat the blueprint there. So feel free to click on that. And yes, Cloud, all of this is going to be also included in the email that's going to be sent out with the recording. So there'll actually be buttons that you can get right off of the slides. So that can be really helpful. And let me go back to the slides here. So I'm going to get my chat back up here. There it is. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Carrie Ann said, I have 2 Etsy shops, but learned that business side is overwhelming. I plan to start essential oil herbal business, aware of the limitations. Yeah, I think some of the time too, we just, there's so much logistics that go into building a business that sometimes it can kind of overwhelm, and then we lose that connection to the passion because it's like we're worried about legal structure and we're worried about what we can and can't say and do. And, those things are all really important. But I think also taking time for that creative space and not losing touch with that is really important as well. But going back to the slide we were on. So identifying your niche, I think it's also really, really important to start talking to people as soon as possible about your business ideas. You do not have to have a fully formed business to start talking about it and sharing with people. That's how those connections are made. Keep mental notes about who's really excited about what we're doing, who are potential investors. Go to those health and wellness events, have those conversations. I would say that the majority of businesses that I see thrive are fully invested in getting themselves out there uh, in the community, right? So networking, meeting people, banding together with other practitioners, really building that community is really important. You can start with LinkedIn and then maybe Google health and wellness events near me and see what's going on, on a weekend that you have free. It's really helpful. And then, this is part of the business blueprint that was sent out to all of you. Um, but really like securing your domain name, starting to build your brand, starting to think about what that brand would look like, really being in that dream space of, what do I want this to look and feel like? What colors do I want to use? Um, and just trying to get that on paper, trying to use friends and family and people like myself to really bounce ideas around as well is really helpful. Practicing those skills. If you want to be a wellness coach, who can you start to see to start the process of using your framework in a safe space where you feel like you can get like real feedback from somebody who will actually give you feedback. um, Practicing your intake skills, your soap notes, things like that. It's easy once we're graduated to kind of forget about those pieces. So to keep fresh, I would highly recommend just integrating that into your plan. And there's a lot of free options out there. Canva is a great option. I know they do charge for some stuff, but you can get a design for free or for very low cost, especially if you're a creative person. So, any questions about anything so far? Farmers markets are a great way to get yourself out there. Absolutely. And we are totally in farmers market season right now. So, for those of you that are working on your business, I would encourage you to look into that as an option. So, we talked about this a little bit, but taking on internships and volunteer opportunities, I'm always very impressed with the students that I talk to because so many of you are out there knocking on doors, sending messages via LinkedIn, sending emails. I know it can be a daunting process to ask another practitioner for their advice or for their ability to maybe come in and do some job shadowing. But that is exactly how we get that hands-on experience. And so what I would recommend doing is just looking around at who's near you. Are there herbal medicine shops? Are there health and wellness functional medicine clinics? What does that look like in your area specifically? And how can you make that connection? I know it's not usually, comfortable for most of us to just walk in somewhere and introduce ourselves. That's one way to do it. But you can also send an email. You can get creative and send a card in the mail. A lot of ways to ask for um, that hands-on internship experience, and it's a win-win, right? A lot of these clinics are functioning on very little um, uh, employees, right? So a lot of these clinics either run with one or two people and they're very busy. And so for you to be able to come in and maybe volunteer some of your time is not only going to help them, but it's going to help you really gain those practical skills that you're going to need. And it obviously boosts your resume as well. So if you haven't already, the homework for today is just to take a look around you and see what's near you and what resonates with you and where you feel like you might want to gain some hours. The worst somebody can say is no or not respond to you, right? But I think what I see in my role is that most practitioners want to help other practitioners. They've also been in your shoes. So just some food for thought. Mentorship, I think, is also just really, really important. Finding somebody you can trust that can really mentor you through the process. And joining, so if you feel stuck with all of this, joining entrepreneurial communities. So going to your Chamber of Commerce or maybe even looking at like a local BNI group. Looking for mastermind groups. If you want to polish up your public speaking skills, you can join Toastmasters or one of those types of groups, but getting involved in your community in that way can be also really helpful. I don't know if any of you have heard of SCORE, but they're through the Small Business Administration, and I've had some amazing experiences with them. They also offer free mentorship. I've actually used a free mentor through SCORE myself personally, and it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. They can help with a lot of that, like logistical side of things, right? So if you're really needing help kind of with the foundation, they're really helpful with that. You can also go to score.org, which we'll put in the chat, and you can type in anything. So marketing, and you'll come up with hundreds of webinars and tools and practical things that you can apply. So I definitely recommend using things like SCORE. It's not so much networking, although I will say whoever you get connected with is usually in your surrounding area. So that in itself is a networking opportunity. Cloud said, I like to use my family and friends as test subjects. Yes, and case studies. I'm sure they really appreciate that too. And then it's score.org is that resource. So I am careful about using the word goals. Actually, one of our mentors here, um, I was matching her up with her mentee, and I kept using the word goal, like, you're going to set goals. And she said to me, I actually don't really enjoy using the word goal. And, it made me really reflect on how goal setting is really great, but it can also be limiting. And as a business owner, there's not any time we get to some pinnacle, right? We're always reiterating, we're always finding new ways and pivoting and seeing what works and what doesn't. And so I think sometimes that can set us up for disappointment if we set too many goals. And I can't take credit for saying all of that because I got it from her, and she got it from a book called Tiny Experiments, but it just resonated with me so much. So instead of saying goal, say tiny experiment. I'm going to just try this thing out. I'm going to try this pathway. I'm going to try, looking at my business from this perspective. I'm going to do it as an experiment. And I just love that so much. And there's a book called Tiny Experiments, and I highly recommend reading it if you have time. Um, Tammy said my grandkids love to try out any new essential oil blends I'm experimenting with. They're very honest. Yes. Yes, grandkids, kids in general, they're the best test subjects because they are so honest. Honesty is good. Um, yeah, any other thoughts about goal setting, about business ownership, entrepreneurship? Any questions any of you have about what that path might look like or resources you might need? Feel free to put that in the chat. And then I think it's just really, really important to really think about the self-care piece, right? Self-kindness, taking care of your mental health, taking breaks, you know, drinking water, getting adequate nutrition, getting sunshine. These transitions, while they're very, very exciting, it's a lot, right? And most of us are also juggling family or a job or, XYZ. Like we have a lot going on in our life. And I think it's really important to take breaks and make sure that you're setting appropriate boundaries and being aware of signs of burnout. Actually, I see a lot of burnout with applying for jobs. Um, it's a competitive job market right now, and sometimes people will spend 40 hours a week on applying for jobs and not hearing back, and that can really chip away. So building in time and setting a schedule for these things, whether it's business planning or applying for jobs, and kind of sticking to that can be really helpful, and making sure you're taking enough time for yourself. Whatever rituals feel right for you, whether it's journaling or rest or sleep or a walk in the woods or whatever that looks like, I think it's important to try to stay as grounded as possible. And then I can't stress enough just the importance of community. We have a great community here at ACHS. So join the Facebook coaching group, join our LinkedIn, start conversations, find people on LinkedIn that have graduated that are doing similar things to what you want to do. Start those conversations, reach out to me. We're all here doing all of this together. And so I think really fostering those connections is important. Um, yeah, just giving yourself time and space and grace, right? This is not easy stuff, but it's definitely worth it. Um, so let's see here. How do we set up a meeting with you and talk about business plans and strategies? Gina, do you mind? I think you may have earlier, but will you put the link to my calendar in once more? That would be great. So Gina's going to put that link in again. You can schedule with me. And Carissa said, I gave up for a while because I'm burnout. And Carissa, don't worry about missing part of it. It'll be emailed to you later today. Cloud said, if you're a knitter or crocheter, I won't say it out loud, but you can read for yourself. Are very therapeutic. I love that. I love that. Yeah, if any of you want to share what your self-care practices are, I think we could all use new ideas around how we take care of ourselves. That's okay. Don't even worry about the language. Yeah, I think it's just really, it's an important piece of this. And also I think people see, are we practicing what we're trying to help other people with too, right? So, okay. Here are some amazing books that I would recommend as you're going through transition um, and thinking about your career path. For those of you that are seeking actual, positions at a company or an employment opportunity, I really love the 2 Hour Job Search. That's a really helpful book. Tooken's not a word. I have taken a lot of Steve Dalton's advice in helping other people with being more efficient with that process. So it's a good one. And again, this is all going to be sent to you, so you can take a look at this at your own time. And then, oh my goodness, podcasts. There's so many. And every time I walk my dog, I put in a new one. And I'm obsessed with career coaching and all things career related and growth and advancement and all of that. And so I've listened to quite a few really great podcasts. But yeah, there's so much good stuff out there. So check out some of these. Also, there's a million TED Talks that are really helpful as well. Andrea said, setting intentions and affirmations with direct inhaling method with your favorite essential oil helps focus and is an attitude changer. Absolutely. Before I got on here today to speak to all of you, I did a big inhalation of lavender. So it really does help kind of refocus the brain. Carrie said, I just bought a water foot bath, adding a handmade botanical bath salt with a few additional fresh drops of essential oil. Decided I would be a case study. Yes, I love that. Simon Sinek. Oh, I'll have to look up Simon Sinek. I don't know if I've heard of that person. Barbara said, I have my alpacas and I work with their fiber. Oh my gosh, it's so soft. We have a couple of alpaca farms here in Oregon that are just so fun to visit. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of your self-care and for being so engaged today. I sometimes just don't want to hear myself talk the whole time, so I really appreciate all the engagement. If you can think of anything else that you need at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here for you. I am excited for you in your next chapter. And yeah, I look forward to, if I haven't met you already, meeting you one-on-one. All right. Thank you so much. You all take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.